Welcome to the Funnel Reboot podcast with your host, Glenn Schmeltzley. Let's get into today's show.
Hey, Glenn here. Whether you're coming back or this is your first time, welcome to Funnel Reboot. Today, we're going to look at careers that are centered around working with search engines. This is the second episode in a series on having a thriving career. There's one specific subfield in marketing where this challenge is harder than usual. It's marketing within paid and organic search. There are always new tools and techniques coming along here. And in our guest's opinion, to be a search marketing professional means upgrading yourself to master them while the iron is still hot. I'll be talking with someone who has dealt with more than her fair share of change, but who feels she is better as a result. Originally from Peru, she has lived in Montreal, Canada for the last 18 years and has been working in digital marketing that whole time, including both agency and client-side roles. She is currently the growth marketer at Vercom, a pioneer in B2B email security. So now, let's turn to our talk with Giannina Fumigalli. Giannina Fumigalli, welcome to Funnel Reboot.
Thanks. I'm very happy to join you today.
Yeah, so am I. So we are going to delve into what I think is a new era in both sides of search marketing, the organic and the paid side. And I think it's worth starting off by just taking a second to reflect back on how much has changed in the way that we can target customers, the ways that Google in particular, but I don't want to discount Microsoft with Bing, that the ways that there are many more signals and aspects of reaching an audience than simply a keyword that's put into a search box. What are some, if you look back, what are some of the big things that you think have changed since the early days?
Yeah, that's funny because I think in one of our first conversations, we start talking about that. And recently I went to review the history of Google Ad Search, which is what I do best, my passion. And it was launched in 2000, October of 2000. So as you said, it's 23 years now of Google Ad Search. And every other year, there has been significant changes. But what I remember especially, it's if I go to the last years, since 2020 to now, changes are happening much faster. And before it used to be like we had changes every year, significant changes. Now we're seeing that every other month or so. The biggest, for sure, it has to do with automation, all what has to do with bidding automation. And that came just on 2022 or about. Another change that I remember, because it was very painful for us PPCers, was the drastic change and almost disabling of keyword match types that used to work so good. And they change from what we were like to do, exact phrase and even modified broad, to what we have now, which is embracing, because there's no other option, broad match, and trying to find different tactics to make broad match better. It's fair that Google is doing its part as well, and Microsoft, as you mentioned, has been improving a lot. So definitely broad match started strongly 1 year ago with all these changes, and we see improvements every time on Google side. So to be fair, and on our side, PPCers, we're trying our best to make it as efficient as possible for our customers.
Yeah. So the thoughts you bring to mind when you mention that are the words exact phrase and like modified broad. They used to mean precisely what they were called. And maybe you'll agree with me. I think now those labels still exist, but you have to look into how they work because the names are increasingly, they have little to do now with what those actual match types mean. So you must look into the machinery behind those keywords, to the extent that you can, because keyword query reports are
Mhm,
increasingly hidden from us. But
mhm.
that if you don't, if you ignore them and you just treat them, oh well, that must mean exact. No, that's going to steer you wrong.
100%. Nowadays, more than ever, you need to find all sorts of reports. As you said, the search term report is very limited, but there's many other ways to try to add proactively. For example, now you hear this type of thing, add negative proactively. So you need to just think what else can block, what other synonyms could not be relevant to me, and you have all these tools that help you, but there's such um, an increase on the workload of ppcers to try to find that, to make broad as efficient as possible and to make our ads what it should be, as relevant as possible.
That's right. If we flip over to the organic side for a moment, that's basically taken care of by the search engine. They obviously must run many, many different tests to see whether or not they are putting the right search results in front of our audience. They give us some of the same mechanisms, the levers, to do that with PPC, but it's up to us, right? And we're putting a client's money on the line when we're doing that, or our own brand's money on the line. Do you have any ways that you like to look at organic search to inform how you do PPC?
That's also a very good question. I like to work in synergy with SEO, and I think, to be completely fair, that SEO, in most of the cases, each company, each situation is different, but in many cases, SEO must be a priority for any online business. However, it's not one or the other. I do believe that in most cases, clients win more overall results if they learn how to make SEO and PPC work together. And there's a lot of questions. This is a common question on our client. Why are we investing if SEO is free? That's something I hear a lot. And to begin with, it's not free. Like, I have very experienced colleagues that have very highly backgrounds and studies, and it changed so fast as it's changing for PPC, or maybe even more, because uh, 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 Google, it's making it more difficult to rank organically, and SEO colleagues that I have need to be more and more proactive and resourceful, and spend more hours of their time that it's paid. Um, and developers and QA will then be involved. So all that has a cost. Now, content is necessary for SEO. All the people behind content, even if you have ChatGPT, you need to review, you need to make a plan. That is the cost of a well executed SEO plan. However, I think that they should both work together in most cases, because by having both at the same time, there's several advantages. And the first advantage is that you want the market has never been more competitive, and it will continue to be so. So you want to have a bigger real estate of your brand and your services on Google. So if you have SEO and PPC at the same time, you are having more opportunities for people to find you, to look at you, to say, okay, from all these that I'm seeing, this article is interesting, or this is calling my attention. And that helps you also with your brand authority, which is a key for the growth of any business. At the same time, with SEO, you're very restricted in certain things, and PPC can be more targeted. You can have ad extensions. You can be more specific with your landing page. So there's a lot where SEO cannot do, where PPC can help. And there's something very important that I don't hear often people mentioning. SEO will rank differently depending of the city, depending of the country, depending of the state, the province. So if I am number one SEO here in Montreal, fantastic. Doesn't mean that I am number one in Toronto, or
Sure.
if I'm targeting, let's say, we're talking about Vermont.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that. So we need to take that into account, and I think we need to where SEO cannot do its best, PPC should help, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And there might be some naysayers out there that say, well, Giannina and Glenn are just in Google's back pocket, and they're trying to argue that, Google should get paid. But I don't know about you, but the response I have to that is, well, okay, you can consider it a tax on, your ability to be seen in front of your prospective customer. However, you should run the numbers to see if the economics of paying to get that additional portion of visitors to your site and then becoming your customers works out profitably for you. And if it does, then I suggest you just make your peace with the fact that Google's making money on it, and you focus on you making money.
That's a very good point, because at the end of the day, as you have just said, numbers don't lie, and numbers will show your client and us if it's worth it to continue to invest, to increase the investment, to cut the investment. Now, you need to take in consideration that it's hard to see the combined effort. But definitely, if you run several reports and you do it well, you'll see that by running both, when it makes sense, you have better results, more revenue, more profitability. And you will not exactly, unfortunately, not yet, be able to reduce where you need to reduce in one of the others or the other side, because we
Yeah.
don't have that specific reports. But yes, we can see if there's a difference and if it does make sense to run both or not. That's for sure.
Yeah. So when we look at, having both that, the organic as well as the paid, I mean, one thing that comes out clearly is that they both involve content, right? You have to put stuff out on either landing pages, or, there are ad platforms that will allow you to post on social, and you need to put content there. And one thing that you've said to me in the past that struck me was how, when we're putting that content out there, it is actually positively affecting what we pay. We're getting better quality scores, or the algorithm is noticing that organically the experience that we're giving people who read that content makes them stick around longer, which makes the algorithm push us higher in the search rank. The point is, though, that we do have to do these things, because if we just look at the way the PPC works, what you've said to me is it captures demand. What can PPC not do that we should be putting content out on different properties on the internet to go take care of. Is there anything else besides capturing demand that we need to worry about?
Oh yeah, that's another great point. Definitely, because there's only so much of the market that search ads, which is the big part of Google and Microsoft can do, which is capture demand. So we are capturing people that are ready to buy or very highly motivated, right? But I see this often, and many companies just stuck there. And now we are seeing a big change, a big movement, and a lot of new positions on demand generation. And that's exactly what you're talking about. This is the upper funnel. These are how we educate people that don't even know yet they will have the need in the future. So starting from there, like I'm in a company, I'm doing everything still with and believe it or not, I see it very often with paper and faxes, and we're in Canada, but it happens, and eventually you will automate step by step. Many companies still have that because it's too complicated to change, and because it is working for them, the process they do have right now. However, you start with this type of content explaining the benefits, explaining that maybe it's not that complicated, that maybe we can do it in phases, and this is how you start getting more people into that uh, bottom funnel. If we don't invest time and money on demand generation, educating people that are not aware of the problem, or that are aware of the problem but are not ready to buy at all, and they just want to start seeing, oh, there's this option, there's this other option, and actually your competitors are already doing it because it started. And if you are not there, you are leaving money on the table, because your eventually your end of the funnel will be too limited, and there's no more than you can scale and growth just there. The problem is that in order to see results, demand capture, it's very easy because you see immediate revenue results, and everybody likes that. The difference with demand generation is that it takes longer, and people need to be patient. And at the beginning, many people think that because there's no money, it doesn't work, and immediately they stop.
They shut it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it is slightly counterintuitive, but I have even heard people who, for example, say if you're selling B2B, they say you should be putting posts out on LinkedIn that have documents and that people can freely access them. They're ungated. And, I think people who have in past use PPC will say, well, that's wrong. You need to capture that lead. Well, in this sense, no, because the things that you are talking about are upper funnel. They are helping someone just realize that there is a need for this, realize that they have a problem. We're not yet at the stage where they're doing anything about it. So go ahead and let them access that content, find out what it is, and over time, we will be able to track and see that there is a corresponding rise in the number of people that will be proactively looking for a solution.
Yes, 100%. And you mentioned another important shift you're seeing lately. It's like we used to gate all content because we were so obsessed of getting the lead, and uh, a lot of experts are explaining why, and I am having already success by ungating because of precisely what you explained right now. Uh, However, there's place for both, because when you start with a new movement like demand generation, it's not that demand capture it's over. No, it's that they need to work together. It's same thing with gated and ungated. The fact that we should ungate as much as possible because we are in a different type of strategy makes sense. Doesn't mean that if you provide ultra high value for a specific report that it's worth it, you can gate it, but you need to provide value, because nowadays you have just a blog post that it's just information on the internet. You cannot gate that type of thing. You need to, this is the best way to bring closer your potential customer, explain them why you are a good option, so that when they come to the moment when they are ready, your process is going to be shorter, and you're going to be even more profitable because they will know you already.
Would it even be fair to say that when they are ready, that is the point at which it's okay to have a little bit of friction, like tell me who you are?
That makes sense. That's when they start on the mid funnel or research, where
Right.
you need to start comparing with the other options and with your competitors, and be fair on what is your differentiator, what are you good at, and what are you not good at. So transparency, don't hide your pricing, don't be vague, be specific, because there's market for everybody, but you cannot just be vague and then bring a lot of leads that are going to be unqualified at the end, because there's people that will not necessarily meet what your company can offer. And it's very important that at that moment of research you are as specific as possible, of course highlighting all your benefits and features, but do not, try not to be vague at that part.
Yeah, and if you are getting more specific, it's likely that that content is being noticed by people who are at that specific I'm ready to do something stage. And one of the things that I've noticed more recently in paid search campaigns like Performance Max is that they're asking for a return on ad spend or a cost per acquisition or cost per action basis. So if you are making, tell me if you agree, but if you are now getting specific enough that the only person who would be asking that question is a person who's in B2B ready to talk to a salesperson, that you can start to ask for that conversion. And that's good, because then you can set a price for that conversion that you're prepared to pay in the auction.
But yes, that makes a lot of sense, because what you're referring to, if I understand correctly, is at this time you should, but you should measure your revenue, your cost per acquisition. It does make total sense, and you should work on that. But always take it with a grain of salt, because what you're getting there is not only the work of capture; it's a work of other different channels.
Right.
And
Together.
together. And at the same time, very important, on demand generation, you cannot ask return on advertising and be that unfair to demand generation. There are other metrics and other measurement that should be prioritized then, like engagement, if the page was open for how long, if they did scroll, if they download the document that you said. This is what is key. You can have return on advertising as a reference. Of course, it's going to be high, because a lot of that will pay off on demand capture.
Yeah.
And that is, unfortunately, we don't have yet a magic way to get this famous attribution perfection report.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I guess the way to just bring all of this discussion together would be, because we're paying in some way, shape, or form around a click. Not all clicks are created equal. And we have to, based on all the things that you've described, we have to make that value judgment. and we're spending money to get the action that we want. And so we had better be clear on that as marketers. I'm really fascinated about one thing you had said a little while ago, and it had to do with when we are putting our marketing out into different regions, as well as with different languages. And I want to dig into that, but first we're going to take a short break. Breaking away for a sec to ask, do you have a lot of company data in reach, but struggle to get useful business insights out of it? Do you open up your Google Analytics but find you're at a loss on how to get it reporting the way you want? Do you wonder what new marketing strategies you could leverage if you could just unlock what's in your data? If you said yes, then you sound just like other clients did when they started working with me. Many B2B companies who I've done project work with have been helped by modernizing their analytics. Some deploy dashboards, some activate their data using machine learning in their campaigns. As of this recording in fall of 2023, my schedule is opened up enough to accommodate 1 or 2 projects. Should you be ready to begin a project, let's talk about what you would like your analytics to do for you. Please reach out today via the podcast feedback channels or connect with me, Hey Glenn S, 2 N's on Glenn, on either Twitter or Instagram. Or search up Marketing Analytics People on LinkedIn. I'm usually the first Glenn that pops up. Okay, let's get back to the show. Giannina, we're now looking at how we can manage in a world of 200 languages, 200 countries, and many, many times more languages than that. We're trying to take on the enormous task of making sure that our marketing can serve all the audiences that we're targeting. I'll start with the question, do you think that search marketing platforms like Google and Microsoft, are they up to this task? Can they really manage all the nuances of bidding in different countries and languages?
Well, I could say that Google and Microsoft, it's growing a lot, and I love Microsoft. I am seeing great, enormous, positive changes for PPCers for the last, and constant changes for the good in the last, I would say, 8 years, and now with the AI it can only get better. However, their market share is still small, but they are going to the same direction of Google. Now, Google, I would say, can do this job in most of the countries, in most of the languages, except, as far as I know, Russia and China.
Right.
Or this type where you have your specific, very, very specific search engines that do work, or specific tools like WeChat in China where you need to be present. However, for the rest, Google so far continues to be king in terms of search, as far as I know. And however, you can manage it but we were talking before about relevance. And when you talk about countries and languages, depending on the amount of traffic, if it's relevant, you want to show your ads in the language that is easier for your target market. So here, the perfect example is here in Montreal. We have a very big French community, but we also have a significant English community. So personally, I had seen better results. Same thing in Ottawa, dividing 2 campaigns, 2 different landing pages. French ads going to a French landing page, and English ads going to an English landing page. And the French of Quebec and the expressions we use here are not the same as the ones I will use if I'm doing a campaign for France. That's another very important. We can do the same and mix it together. But if you really take the time to do it targeted, your results are going to be better.
Right. So what I take out of that is we can't just say that everybody in this region speaks this language. So we have to take care of that. And there are some flavors of this that we seldom think of. There are the default languages that the person has set on their browser. There is also the version of the front page of Google. So you talked about Parisian French versus Quebecois French. So we can actually use these. There are, in most platforms for search, there are settings that allow you to modify what you're showing based on those settings. So I guess your advice would be go into your campaigns if you are trying to do multiple regions, multiple languages, and look at these and see if you can fine tune them, perhaps run some tests to see how you can improve them.
100%, and there's no one solution works best for each case. It's a matter of always testing, as you said, checking the report, seeing the numbers, seeing if it makes sense. And a different example in the US, there's a lot of people that for example, California, they do speak Spanish, and it's a big community. Texas too. However, as you clearly specified, their browser is in English, most probably. So, does it make sense to do a Spanish campaign? Depends on the product. For B2B, maybe not. So, you in that case, but you need to know your platform and you need to add Spanish so that they can because these people read and understand. Even if they have the browser in Spanish, they will read and understand English. And because the volume is so small, it does not justify having a separate campaign.
Right. So yes, it's not that there are hard and fast rules, but it is, have you thought about? So as you say, have you thought about, okay, you may have a language like Spanish spoken in the home, but if you have a B2B product, even if you're serving ads in a place where there are predominantly Spanish speakers, English is the language of business, let's say there. So you will follow that. So you can't just generalize.
Exactly.
And when it comes to understanding how we're supposed to balance what we're doing, I mean, marketers are measurable. So dare we say that sometimes the same product across different regions, even if we've optimized for languages and localized settings, sometimes the product is going to sell better in one group than another? And how in the world do we tell the difference between, okay, it's just the product itself and how this market likes it versus the way that it is being presented by a marketer?
Oh yeah, then you have so many different type of situations because and it's
Talking about
fascinating.
a taste almost, right? Preference.
Yes, and context, because I did work with different B2B in the US, and I was having and seeing exactly what you say. They were selling very well in certain states and not in others. Of course, you have the common bigger areas, more important cities, New York, California, all of those will sell much more. And you need to take all that into account and see if you have enough budget to target all the US, or maybe you want to block, I don't know, Nebraska, where you don't sell because it's not worth it. However, there might be a product that you want to target all around the US. You do have the budget. You are seeing that it does not sell in the same way in different states. And then you have different competitors in different states. They are not the same.
Right.
Sometimes that could be another case. And your strategy and your landing page of PPC needs to adapt to the context and the type of competitors you're having, you need to also understand if the product was launched at the same time or was a product that has been launched fairly recently in one state and not in the other. How much you want to invest on your LinkedIn ads, if that's the case. There's so many questions you should ask. Build your strategy before then launch your PPC plan. That's so important for success, because many people say, okay, here's the money, launch equally everywhere, give me the leads. And yes, you can do that. But if you receive a plan and say, this is the product, these are my states, here is, yes, it's going to be harder to sell, but I want to increase my market research.
Right. I have a strategic objective to go there.
Yes. Correct. So it's so important to have clarity on your strategy and provide the PPCer. The PPCer will do what you ask him to do. But if you're vague, it's very easy to bring you a lot of leads. It's very easy. Now, will those convert? Will those bring you money? Is that what you need? That depends on the information you provide to your specialists.
Yes. Yeah. And if anybody doesn't believe you, they should try doing a Performance Max campaign for a few weeks.
Exactly.
You will find some kind of leads. They just might not be what you want. How does this translate into the way that you like to set up an account structure? If you're going to manage all of these regional considerations or market considerations, I don't imagine that you just have one big campaign that you throw everything into and that you let Google spend your money however it wants.
Well, that's a very good question, because I used to love segmentation by country, by province, by state, so that I can have more control as a PPCer on what my client needs, where should I invest. But of course, Google is helping us with automation, and that is bringing us the lack of control on our side. Yep. So it is not good to have, for example, automation can work very well. I actually love it at the beginning, not, but again, it has been improving and improving and improving. But you need to understand how to use it for the type of objective you have. And if you have low traffic or not too much data, you will not have the best results. That's when now you have should we be targeted or should we consolidate? Yeah. So it depends. Now, the machine learning will start seeing, for example, what ad sells better, and will show the ad that sells better. Until there, we're good, and many other things. But until the last time I checked on the PPC experts that I follow, they are not good yet. They might be in the near future, right, with regions, with countries. So until the last time I checked, it's never a good idea to put Canada and US together, unless you really don't have time and you're okay with a little bit extra money outside your pocket.
Right.
You need to check in the changes that Google does on machine learning, and we'll see if they want to go that road. How accurate it is, I don't think you can have that control if you don't divide certain things. Like another example is single keyword ad groups. Those were golden they used to be golden. Now, it doesn't mean that you should not do it anymore. It means that, yes, we should consolidate if we're using automation, because it does not make sense to make a lot of single keyword ad. You will not have good results. However, if you know which are your 10% keywords that are your golden egg, maybe some of them, you can have them in a single keyword ad group. And if there's enough traffic, it makes a lot of sense. So there's no always yes or no. It's let's analyze and see what's best.
Sure. When you're looking at the way that they make changes to the platform, which is constant,
Hmm.
Do you like, I hear some people saying they're only doing it so that they can find more ways to take money. But I also hear people that say they are giving some of those broader settings, and you mentioned machine learning, because they really believe that their platform now has enough machine learning smarts that it can find you a person who will be a good prospect, even if they don't fall into the narrow categories that you set. So the one that comes to mind is location, right? So if you try to ratchet it down to just people who are in the geographic location I'm targeting, now they make it far broader. They say, well, they may be outside of that region, but they may be searching for things that are inside of that region, or they may occasionally visit that region. And the it sounds like the argument some are making is Google wants that breadth. They want to be able to have that amount of freedom so that the machine learning can actually find those few but significant people that would buy from you if you let the machine learning have that amount of freedom.
Yeah, and that's a fascinating topic because I used to be, until last year, I would say, a person that will go more towards they just want your money. It's not fair. I was truly mad with all the changes and the fact that I used to have all the control of my client's campaign, and now I don't. And there's so much uncertainty because machine learning, there's no enough reports. Same thing with RSA. When something starts, it takes time, it takes iterations, it will improve over time, but when? So it's not nice. However, I see the improvement over time in a short time. It's not that it's taking too long.
Yep.
And I also understand that there's not many companies around the world that use Google that can have the privilege to have a budget, to have an expert on PPC deciding and taking the best decisions for your company. There's a lot of small businesses that, like you described,
Yep.
that they start small, they don't know what to do. And I think Google is trying to help this market as well. We need to see it in this way. Um, and yes, of course, machine learning is and AI is the future. And the only way for it to work is to be as flexible as possible. So definitely they need to go on that way. The only thing we're asking as PPCR is to, okay, but do it fast and give us some control and report so that we can help you and help our clients. But I think that it's a combination of both, but definitely it has to do all the changes they're doing with AI. It has to do with helping smaller companies that need to have an easier product.
Yes.
And finally, they are a business. They need to reach more market.
Yeah. And so I'm hearing you say we're not giving up our responsibility to spend money wisely, but if we give it a short amount of time where it can collect that data and we start to see positive results, we have to then let the machine learning continue, and it will, so long as we are watching it, it should be able to accomplish this mind-boggling feat of finding people out there who would buy from us. I mean, it's almost like it's psychic. It's really something. Do you think one of the things that Google has given us, even though they've taken away things like keyword control, do you think that the audiences that we're now getting out of Google Analytics, the fact that we can make an audience around anything that a certain group of people do on our website, and we can start to feed that into our PPC ads, is this a help?
Yes, 100%. This is a true help. This is again a way where Google is respecting their promise of being relevant. This is the type of people that we know and you know are interested because of this or this reason. And now you have a way to target. And yes, modified broad is not perfect yet, but if you add the layer of audiences, it will become more relevant. So, but that's again when you need an expert, someone that guides the machine. It's not that, oh my God,
Right.
machine learning and AI is going to kill everybody and take our jobs. At least not yet, and I hope never. But but you need someone behind guiding that machine, because again, if you don't have a solid strategy, marketing, business objectives to fit to that machine, you will get results that will not make any sense.
Yeah. So I love that word layer. The way that we are teaching the machine is that we are saying to it, if a person does these sorts of things and they talk this way and they are in this kind of place and they have this kind of um, nature to them, or these habits with their mobile device or with their desktop device, that forms a composite picture for Google to understand who you're going after. It's all of them together. It's not just like it used to be, do they type in this keyword?
Yes, and if you do it correctly and you test and review your reports and test, you most probably will have much better result than what you had before with a lot of control. So it depends how you see things. Yes.
Giannina, when you think of where this is going, what gets you excited? What sorts of things do you foresee, either that are going away or that we are seeing the dawn of? I mean, we're now getting into having images and video as part of PPC. It's it's hard to tell where it's going, but what do you think? What are some of the things that you would really like to look forward to?
Well, it's fascinating how it changed, but at the end of the day, I think that everything has to do with your target market. And recently, I started reading more about millennials and younger
Hmm.
generations, what is relevant for them because they are the future. And based on their habits, what they do, how they shop, their attention span, um, mobile 100% maybe, or another
Right.
app device that will appear in the future, uh, I think Microsoft and Google are adapting to that. In one of the latest Microsoft webinar, let's say, they were very they were highlighting a lot the importance of the new generations, and they are respecting what it's important for them, like climate change, like equality for, and everything is going to be included. We are seeing it already on branding and marketing in general, but it's going to be included in the landing page, in the ad, in the video that you see. So that's one of the things we need to always adapt to the target market that we're serving.
Yeah. Or let's take how chat is now becoming a type of interface. If there were ever going to be a segment of the population that's going to jump on chat, it's going to be the demographic of millennials or Gen Y and Gen Z. So I guess we need to be ready to even think that search marketing won't use search primarily in a couple of years, or at least for those audiences it won't. Like nothing
For
nothing
sure.
nothing is really sacred here. It can all
No.
change.
Yes, and to be honest, on digital marketing, it's you need to adapt and adapt and adapt on a
Right.
weekly basis. You need to be ready for change. You need to be, yeah. There's nothing, as you said, that is guaranteed.
Yeah. And again, sure, that brings possibly anxiety, but it's also tremendously exciting, and it keeps us Mentally engaged, that's for sure. You will never run out of things to be learning.
100%. This is one of the things I love. Yes, it could be nerve wracking sometimes, but I prefer it to be this way. It keeps us growing. It keeps us reinventing. It keeps us improving. We can use a lot of what we have learned in the past in different platforms to certain of the new ones. We still have that background, that experience, but it keep it fresh. And if you are someone that likes growing and that likes learning and that are you can easily adapt, this is the type of environment where you want to work. But if not, better not.
Yeah, maybe find another line of work. If people want to find out more about you or say hi online, where would you send them?
Oh, in my case, I am very active on LinkedIn. I'm always like every week posting, and something that you mentioned, we had been discussing about how tough the changes are lately happening for SEO, for PPC, for digital marketing. I'm seeing a tremendous amount of experts around the world sharing their experience, saying, okay, PMAX just started. It's not working because of this. Oh, I find a way. I find a workaround. Google Analytics 4. Have you tried this? And this is more than before so important. So I like to share anything that I could find relevant, and I like to listen more. There's so many experts, at least in terms of PPC, out there in LinkedIn showing, and that's fantastic, showing quality feedback of what they're trying. It works, it doesn't work, and that helps us to do our job better.
You're very modest. That is a great way to put it. There is a community. This is bigger than just a handful of people, and you do a great job. I can't imagine how many posts of these people you read, but you do curate and share some of the big ones. And so if someone doesn't know the community that you're referring to, I would suggest that they start following you, and they'll find out who out there is leading in finding these workarounds and keeping us all up to date on the happenings. Giannina, I can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Thank you. As usual, I enjoy our conversations, and thank you very much for having me.
For sure. No doubt gives insight into people's funnels so that they can make them even better.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter at Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.